So an idea I'd like to explore came to me the other day as I was sitting there it was in a company meeting, and we were going through a book that leadership had recently read, and while not having read the book, I read the article by the same author that had gone on to become the book. I remember the first time I read this article feeling very angry, feeling very irritated. The author, I felt, was uh, incredibly arrogant, and it was fascinating thinking back to explore the actions I took after reading the article at a different company, requested by a different CEO, different leader. Um, I I felt it almost like a duty to go out and disprove by discovering the actions of this author as to why the points that he was making were incorrect, or at least hypocritical. I went through Glassdoor reviews. I looked all around for evidences this person was um, why this person was wrong. Um, but notice there, maybe spoiler alert. I looked for evidences why this person was a hypocrite, but I did. I also tried to refute the claims a bit, but so far as to say, I disliked the article a lot, and I spent a good amount of time um, trying to rebut it. Right when time came at that company for me to say, for All in Leadership, I was a manager at the time, and the CEO was asking for feedback. I tried to be diplomatic. I feel I did that in an okay way. Um, but I definitely let loose my thoughts and opinions on why this guy was arrogant and why he didn't seem to care about people. Um, and later on, I ended up leaving that company because I felt like uh, the leadership that I had been involved with um, seemed to be accurate, that they also didn't care about me as a person, um, and acted in ways that affected me. Okay, fine. Uh, Looking back, I don't know that my opinion has changed on that situation. But then, new company, new leadership, and they're citing this same guy. Um, so all this, right? So I'm back into the same zone, and and I'm again encountering the same ideas, and I did the same thing I did before, trying to say, okay, I need to be objective as much as I can be. So I printed off the same article and I went through and read it again. I found a lot more this time that uh, I felt was like a good principle of leadership, but seemed to be approached in kind of a, you hear the analogy like the carrot or the stick. I felt it was much more in the stick kind of way, right? Of like, fear will keep them in line. If they're not moving quickly, like, let's penalize them. Whereas I felt like trying to help individuals unlock their potential is a much more excuse me, is a much more interesting and engaging um, kind of approach that speaks to my emotions, my heart, my head a bit better. But then it came to me as I was sitting there listening to our CEO talk, president really, um, and and that's why the working title of my notes here, uh, arrogance is a lie. And I wrote down some of these thoughts, and the more I wrote it down, the more I explored it, the more I thought, I I don't like this. what I think I'm discovering for myself here. And I don't feel like I can, like you're discovering the truth of the way things are, right? But you're discovering something going, oh no, this is not a discovery I wanted to make. As I thought about the arrogance of the person writing it, as I thought about people that before I've considered to be arrogant, I tried to think about what really I would describe, if I can't use the word arrogance, what would I describe them as? Well, I would describe them as very self-confident or very self-assured people that that bugged me, right? Or like I allowed bug me, but sometimes that's a tough thing in the moment to realize, like, you're allowing this person to bug you. Maybe not. You may simply be bugged, and that's it. But as I looked at it, I asked myself, is it possible to objectively recognize arrogance? I think arrogance, and this was the great revelatory discovery sitting there in that meeting, I think arrogance is entirely in the eye of the beholder, of the person experiencing it. Because, okay, I mean, this was the great disconfirming line of question, right? There's an excellent book that I've been reading that I will cite a lot because I love it. It's called How to Have Impossible Conversations, a practical guide by a couple authors, and I absolutely love it. I find it incredibly insightful. They talk about how, in order to really understand how you got to, or how you can understand how other people got to believe what you or others believe, right? How you got there, the epistemology. You need to ask yourself or others disconfirmation questions, right? So the like, well, how do you like know that's not true, right? Or how can you like, what are some ways you could ask yourself questions that, like, if you could get the answers to, would disprove what you believe? The disconfirmation question or questions that I had here was, how can you differentiate between a confident person who is unlikable and an arrogant person? And as soon as I wrote that down, I got real humble, right? I felt like that was a kick to the teeth, because I realized that you now you could simply, right, as I go on with my thinking, you can definitely have people that you go, wow, that person is very self-assured in his or her beliefs, right? That person is definitely very confident in the stance that he or she is taking. But to describe it as arrogance, right? Meaning a annoying or irritating or boastful sense of self-assuredness. I found that to be very, very telling, because as I have sought to think about my reactions to things and think about, why am I reacting the way I am, right? I've done a little bit on my channel of cognitive behavioral therapy. I meant to do an entire series, and thus far the series has had 2 videos in it, including the intro. I need to hire a producer or something, because I think there's more interesting stuff on tap that I'd love to explore. The idea of cognitive behavioral therapy is to be able to recognize distortions, right? Cognitive distortions that somehow, for a myriad of reasons, we have slipped into telling ourselves and really believing. And through these distortions, we end up not seeing the world as it actually is, but seeing the world through through the blur of our distortions. And so, in thinking about this, right, that arrogance, what really this disconfirmation question called into sharp relief for me was that if you really can't tell the difference between an arrogant person, right? A so-called Neil thinks that person is arrogant, and someone who is simply confident in what he or she believes, who is also unlikable, which, that's a bit of a subjective thing. But unlikability meaning they are combative in their language. They do not build rapport with the people with whom they're having relationships and conversations. There's hosts of topics that lie therein. But to realize, if I am getting angry, bugged, I find it obnoxious that someone is confident in his or her beliefs, what does that say about me? It says that probably the thing that they're confident in, it bugs me somehow. And as I thought about going back and thinking through the times that I had been, thought people with whom I worked or associated with through church and community and things like that were arrogant, and thought, such arrogance. If I looked and I was honest with myself, there are probably lots of those. Probably I would wager the vast majority of them were times where I lacked self-confidence. And I felt that them being so confident was somehow a slight to my ability. And their being strong, potentially either, actually, right, maybe it's self-confidence born of true experience and capability. Maybe it's self-confidence born of arrogance I guess I'm using the word. Maybe they are expressing a lack of self-confidence themselves, so that lack of self-confidence begets a lack of self-confidence. So it ends up being this blind leading the blind, and just whoever is first to shout, "Over here, come follow me," seems to get it. This is a fascinating and, again, very humbling thought for me, because it really comes down to, I cannot control, nor do I really want to, if I really am honest with myself. A wise person once said, "It is better to resist the first temptation than to satisfy all that follow." I think the desire to control one or more people's actions other than yourself, other than me, right? That is a temptation best resisted, because to try and satisfy all the permutations and desires of how you'd like to live other people's lives while not being them, that seems like a never-ending thing that will drive you mad. But as I think about these things and realize, the next time I feel angry, right, the next time I feel fear at someone else around me knowing something I don't, because I would wager that those are the two main root emotions that we are discussing when we discuss arrogance, right? Saying, that person's so arrogant. What is the worst that could happen if that person truly knows a ton about a subject? If it's a work person, right? If it's a coworker or a boss or a mentor or something like that, good news. If that person truly understands all there is to know, or a lot more than you do about a given topic, you have direct, immediate social circle access to a lot of gained experience. Wonderful. Isn't this a great thing? Now, obviously, if the person you might struggle to interact with, you might have a hard time with socially. Okay, that could be, the fly in the ointment. But at least where you are going, yeah, this is a friend of mine and I genuinely enjoy spending time with this person, but you still feel that there's a bit of arrogance on something. Well, good news. This is a friend. You already trust him or her, right? Everything's good. But if you are looking at it going, I don't know that I would describe this person as actually all that knowledgeable, well, then who cares? Let it go. This was the great and humbling revelation for myself. It's the people that the people that seemed, far and away knowledgeable and expert in a topic, saying, I am knowledgeable and expert in a topic, and here's why. I generally don't struggle with those people. They seem like they are able to my mind, kind of review their credentials, right? Review their resume with me enough that I am able to let go of my worries of self-esteem, my self-confidence, and I can learn from them. But it's the people that seem like they're on par with me in some way, right? Maybe they're not my boss or a mentor, but they're a peer. Maybe they're my age. Maybe they're younger than me. Maybe they seem like they have about the same level of skill in whatever we're talking about. Those are the times when, if I am very honest, that's when the arrogance accusation, right? That's when the mindset of that person is very arrogant can come out. And yet, why is it so important? Is it important for me to go around and destroy all other people in some sort of intellectual battle, right? Some sort of wrestling match of intellectualism? It might be, but to what end? Is it important for me to know that I am the only smart person or the smartest person in a room? No. While it is fun to feel like you are highly knowledgeable, I would still imagine and encourage us to think that is an egocentric view of things, which being egocentric, probably to the point of mild neuroses, right? Mild egomania. That is not how we learn or grow. So the next time I am tempted to use the word arrogant to describe someone, I will give a much more thorough review of my feelings around why I want to use that as a word to describe it. Because I think there is I cannot help but think that describing somebody as arrogant now says more about myself and is more my subconscious mind highlighting a place where I have yet untapped potential to grow in self-confidence than it is about anything to do with the person. And those things that your subconscious is screaming at you in ways of feeling this raw emotion that maybe we're scared of or we run from. Those are the times to pause, to find a moment of self-reflection within the day and say, why did I feel that way so strongly? It is through these times that we grow. So, next time you're tempted to think arrogant, oh, that person's so arrogant, I simply encourage you to pause and reflect upon what you would describe of the person in relation to your feelings if you couldn't simply use the word arrogant, but you had to describe why. Why does that person, what makes that person arrogant? Why would you describe that person as arrogant? The exploration will probably surprise you.